To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. Published 1960. Set in the 1930s Alabama. One of the most banned books in America. Here's what happens in the book. A black man stands trial for a crime he didn't commit. The evidence is clear. The victim's injuries came from someone left-handed. Tom Robinson's left arm is useless, crippled from a childhood accident. He physically couldn't have done it. His lawyer presents this. The all-white jury deliberates. They come back guilty. Not because they believed the lie, because the system wasn't never designed to let him win. They said they banned it for racial slurs and inappropriate language. That's the excuse. The real reason, it teaches you exactly how a rigged system protects itself and how everyone participates without even knowing. Here's what Lee's showing. The trial isn't about truth. It's about maintaining a social order. The system wasn't designed to protect Tom. It was designed to control him. And the key part, the people on that jury aren't monsters. They're regular people who've been taught that preserving white authority matters more than one black man's life. They convince themselves they're doing the right thing. Think about the rules you follow without questioning, the policies that don't quite make sense but everyone enforces anyway. That's how systemic racism works. Good people enforcing a bad system because the system feels normal. Then there's the aftermath. Tom gets convicted, tries to escape, gets shot 17 times. 17. They didn't need to kill him. He was already in custody. But excessive force sends a message. This is what happens when you challenge the order. Lee also shows how white people who oppose the system get punished. Atticus descends Tom and becomes a pariah. His kids get attacked. The message? Even if you're white, stepping out of line has consequences. This is why the book gets banned. It doesn't just show racism exists, it shows you the exact mechanics of how it operates. And once you see those mechanics, you can't unsee them. Some people say the book centers white saviors instead of black voices. Fair criticism, but it keeps getting banned because it makes the mechanics of oppression visible, and systems don't like being explained. So that's systemic oppression from the outside. Laws, juries, social pressure. But wait until we get to book 3, because that one shows what happens when the system gets inside your head and literally breaks how you experience reality. You'll see what I mean. The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, published in 1951, banned constantly ever since. Here's what Holden Caulfield sees. His teacher gives an inspiring speech about finding your passion and being yourself. After class, Holden watches him act completely different, petty, selfish, fake. His parents lecture about honesty, then he hears them lie on the phone about why they can't visit relatives. Everyone's performing. Everyone's saying one thing and doing another. And once he notices it, he can't stop seeing it everywhere. Every adult is a phony playing a role. They said they banned it for swearing and sexual content. Wrong. They banned it because it teaches teenagers how to spot a phony, and that includes teachers, parents, and anyone in authority. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Holden's not some anarchist, he just notices the gap between what people say and what they do. He calls everyone a phony because that's exactly what they are, playing roles they don't believe in. His teachers give speeches but don't care. Adults preach values but act selfishly. Everyone pretends the world makes sense when it doesn't. And here's the thing, Holden's not wrong. The adults around him are maintaining appearances because that's how social systems stay stable. But to Holden, it feels like everyone's lying all the time, which they kind of are. And if you've ever felt that disconnect between what people say and what they do, you know exactly what he means. The second part, Holden's alternative isn't better. He wants to be the catcher in the rye, someone who saves kids from falling into the phony adult world. He wants to preserve innocence. But that's not realistic. Everyone grows up. Everyone compromises. So Holden's stuck. He can't respect the system because he sees through it, but he doesn't have something to replace it with. He just spirals, drinking, lying, pushing people away. By the end, he's in a mental hospital. Salinger's showing seeing through the performance isn't enough. You need something to replace it with. Otherwise, you just collapse inward. Some people think Holden's just whiny, privileged kid complaining. Maybe. But adults want to ban this book not because he's wrong about phoniness, but because he's right. and they don't want teenagers thinking too hard about that. So authority feels fake because it is, and once you notice that gap, respecting it becomes almost impossible. If you're still here, it's because you're starting to see the pattern. These aren't just stories, they're warnings. Let's keep going. Slaughterhouse-Five by Vonnegut, published 1969 during the Vietnam War. Vonnegut was there. Here's what happens to Billy Pilgrim in the book. His brain can't process what he witnessed in the war. The horror was so overwhelming that his mind fragments it, scatters the memories across his entire life so he never has to hold all of it at once. He's at his daughter's wedding, and suddenly he's back in Dresden watching people burn. He's eating breakfast, and he's 23 watching a city turn to ash. He can't control it. Past, present, future, they all blend together. This isn't science fiction. This is trauma. They said they banned it for profanity and anti-American sentiment. Nope. They banned it because Vonnegut survived World War II and came back saying war isn't noble. It's absurd, meaningless, and it breaks your brain permanently. That threatens every recruitment campaign ever made. Billy Pilgrim is unstuck in time. He experiences moments out of order. Birth, death, war, childhood, all scrambled. This is PTSD before we had the term for it. Billy's brain can't hold the horror in a straight line, so it fragments. He relives moments over and over, can't control when he's in the past or present. Vonnegut's showing war doesn't just kill soldiers, it breaks the ones who survive. Billy is alive but not living. He's a shell. And he keeps saying, "So it goes," every time someone dies. 106 times in the book. It's his way of numbing himself. If you've ever known a veteran who can't talk about what they saw, who seems disconnected even when they're right in front of you, this is what Vonnegut's showing. Then there's Dresden, over 25,000 civilians dead in one night from Allied firebombing. Vonnegut was in a meat locker underground and survived. When he came up, the city was ash. And here's what makes people uncomfortable. This was the Allies, the good guys. Vonnegut isn't saying the Nazis weren't evil, they were. But he's also saying we incinerated a city full of civilians and called it victory. War isn't a clean moral story. It's chaos and meaningless death on all sides. Leaders talk about honor and duty, but soldiers are just trying to not die. And when they do, it's random. No meaning. Just so it goes. This is why it gets banned. It strips war of mythology. Governments need people to believe war is noble, so they'll keep enlisting. Vonnegut says it's trauma wrapped in propaganda. Some say this is unpatriotic or disrespectful, but Vonnegut was a veteran. He's not disrespecting soldiers, he's telling the truth about what we do to them. Now, the final book takes all of this, systemic oppression, fake authority, meaningless violence, and asks, what if you're trapped in all three at once? What if you're oppressed from every direction? Can you even escape? The Color Purple by Alice Walker, published in 1982, won the Pulitzer Prize, also one of the most banned books in America. Here's what Celie's life in the book. She's raped by her stepfather as a teenager, forced into marriage with an abusive man who beats her, separated from her sister, the only person who loved her, treated as property by everyone around her. But here's what Walker shows. Celie's abused by black men who are themselves crushed by white society. They can't control the world outside, so they dominate the women in their homes. Power flows downhill. The oppressed become oppressors when they get any power at all. They said they banned it for graphic sexual content and LGBT aims. That's part of it. But the real reason, it shows that oppression works in layers. Racism, sexism, abuse, all reinforcing each other. And it shows women breaking free anyway. That terrifies systems built on control. Walker isn't just blaming white supremacy. She's also holding black men accountable for how they treat black women. Celie's husband, Mr., was beaten down by racism his whole life, so he beats down Celie. The cycle repeats. The men in her life can't fight the system oppressing them, so they oppress the people beneath them. This is complicated. It refuses simple narratives. You can't just point at one villain. It's a structure where everyone's both victim and oppressor depending on where they stand. And if you've ever been in a situation where the person hurting you was also being hurt by someone else, you know this isn't fiction. This is how power actually moves. The second part, Celie's relationship with Shug Avery, another woman. In a world where men control everything, Celie finds tenderness and respect with Shug. It's not just romantic, it's Celie discovering she has value outside of what men think of her. This gets the book banned in a lot of places, not just because it's LGBT content, but because it suggests women don't need men to be whole. In a society built on male authority, in the family, the church, the state, that's a threat. By the end, Celie owns her own business, reconnects with her sister, lives on her own terms. She breaks the cycle, not by destroying the men around her, but by refusing to let them define her worth. Some think the book's too harsh on black men or reinforces stereotypes, but Walker's a black woman writing about black women's experiences. Banning her voice doesn't protect anyone. It just silences the people who most need to be heard. Banning a book is a certificate of its power. It means the ideas inside were heavy enough to make the people in charge nervous. So the next time you see a book being pulled from a library, don't ask what's wrong with it. Ask what it's revealing that they don't want you to see. Which of these four do you think threatens power the most? Drop a comment. And if you want more books that make people uncomfortable, subscribe. See you next week.